The scent of pine and damp earth clung heavy in the air as Red Riding Hood hurried through the twilight woods. The crimson cloak, a gift from her grandmother, billowed behind her, a splash of defiant color against the encroaching darkness. She clutched the basket, its contents of cakes and wine meant to comfort a sick woman, now feeling like a pathetic offering to the dread she felt creeping up her spine. She knew something was wrong. The familiar sounds of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of crickets, were muted, replaced by an oppressive silence that hummed with menace. Then she saw him. Not the kindly woodcutter, not the playful deer she sometimes encountered. This was something else entirely. Crouched low in the path ahead, a creature of shadow and muscle, with eyes that gleamed with malevolent hunger. The wolf. He was bigger than she remembered from the stories, far more terrifying. The air crackled with the raw power emanating from him. Saliva dripped from his fangs as he rose, a low growl rumbling in his chest, a sound that vibrated through the very ground beneath her feet. "Going somewhere, little girl?" His voice was a gravelly rasp, a mockery of human speech. Red Riding Hood didn't scream. Fear had a strange way of focusing her, sharpening her instincts. She knew, instinctively, that her grandmother was already gone. The lie the wolf told to lead her to the cabin was just a trap. This wasn't a conversation, it was a hunt. Without a word, she dropped the basket. Cakes scattered across the forest floor. With surprising speed, she reached into the folds of her cloak and drew the hunting knife her father had given her. It was small, but sharp, its blade glinting in the fading light. The wolf chuckled, a cruel, guttural sound. "You think that little thing can hurt me?" He lunged and Red Riding Hood sidestepped. At the same time, she thrust the knife down. The blade connected with the wolf's thick fur and hide, drawing a yelp of surprise and a flash of crimson as blood welled up. The wolf roared with rage and pain. He swiped with a paw, claws extended, tearing through her cloak and leaving stinging welts across her arm. Red Riding Hood cried out, stumbling backward. She knew she couldn't win in a straight fight. She was smaller, weaker, and injured. Survival depended on speed and cunning. She turned and ran, weaving through the trees, dodging roots and low-hanging branches. The wolf was close behind, his heavy footfalls shaking the ground. She could hear his panting, his enraged snarls spurring her on. He was gaining. She scrambled up a steep embankment, loose dirt and stones tumbling down behind her. At the top, she risked a glance. The wolf was struggling to climb, his bulk hindering him on the uneven terrain. But she knew it was a temporary reprieve. The chase continued, through tangled thickets, across a rushing stream, deeper and deeper into the darkening woods. Red Riding Hood's lungs burned, her legs ached, but she refused to stop. She used every trick she knew, scrambling under fallen logs, leaping across ravines, throwing handfuls of dirt and leaves into the wolf's face to momentarily blind him. The forest floor became a tapestry of blood, hers and his. The air was thick with the coppery scent of it. She was weakening, but so was he. Her knife had done more damage than he'd anticipated. Finally, she reached the edge of the woods bordering the human settlement. The distant flicker of lamplight was a beacon of hope. She could make it. She had to. But the wolf was relentless. He burst from the trees, blocking her path. He had moved faster and was now in his more feral form of a werewolf. He stood tall as a large man, and his eyes were pure rage. "Nowhere left to run, little girl," he snarled, his voice thick with blood. Red Riding Hood looked around. She was trapped. Behind her, the dense, unforgiving woods. Ahead of her, the monstrous creature that had stalked her through the night. But in her eyes was a growing ferocity. She would not die easily. She tightened her grip on the knife. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about vengeance, about the grandmother he had murdered, about the fear he had instilled. The final confrontation was brutal, a whirlwind of claws, teeth, and flashing steel. Red Riding Hood fought with a desperate courage, fueled by adrenaline and a burning hatred. She dodged, she parried, she stabbed. She found an opening. With a desperate lunge, she drove the knife deep into the wolf's chest, aiming for his heart. He roared in agony, collapsing to the ground, his body convulsing. As the life faded from his eyes, Red Riding Hood stood over him, panting, bloodied, and exhausted. Her crimson cloak was torn and stained, a testament to the bloody battle she had just endured. She had won, but at a price. She staggered towards the lights of the village, leaving the carcass of the wolf behind. She knew she would never be the same.